Hey folks, Dale Davidson, the old man in the sea today. Thank you for joining us. Had a lot of comments or questions this past week, interestingly enough, on joint wills. They're kind of rare, but I thought I'd do a video on them to kind of give you my spin on them. So, generally, it's a married couple. They make a joint decision as to who's going to receive their property, how they're going to receive the property, when they're going to receive the property, who's going to be in charge of their estates on death. So usually that's a joint decision. Generally they say, okay, now everything is going to go to the surviving spouse or be held for the benefit of the surviving spouse. And boom, simple Simon, right? Well, the presumption is that these types of wills are simple and cheap, but that's not true, okay? There are several problems with joint wills, and we're going to discuss them today. So, does a joint will avoid probate? Not necessarily. Well, why is that, Dale? I mean, I'm married, we got a will, everything goes to my spouse. Well, again, probate depends upon how property is titled. There's tenancy by the entireties, which is a Florida concept, talking about when one spouse dies, the other spouse automatically receives that property by operation of law. There's joint ownership with rights of survivorship, where if one of the joint owners dies, again, it automatically, by operation of law, passes to the surviving owner. Then there's tenants in common, where if a joint owner dies, then it's subject to whatever that individual's will says or the intestacy laws if you die without a will. And of course, then there's sole ownership. So again, just because you have a joint will doesn't necessarily mean you're going to avoid probate, because you've got to look at the title of the property. Check with your local attorney there in your state, wherever you are, to see if a joint will is even legal. You know, some states they don't allow joint wills. So a joint will is a contract between spouses that can't be changed. It's irrevocable. I can make a joint will with my wife, and I can't change it, neither can she, without getting my consent or getting her consent, okay? So it takes a lot of the flexibility out of planning for folks, okay? I pass away, we have a joint will. My wife is kind of hamstringed into what my will says. And hey, folks, after somebody dies, life, there's changes, okay? There's deaths, divorces, births, all kinds of different things change. And if we have a joint will, she can't do some things that she may need to be able to do because of that will. That's a big drawback to joint wills, okay, is the inability to change the will after the first spouse dies. Maybe she wants to downsize. Well, she can't, because the house is in a joint will and it's subject to probate, and it's so you can see where it can become a real mess. So, big con, the will can't be revoked. The joint will cannot be revoked without Rhonda's consent, my consent, the joint spouse's consent. Most of these joint wills that I have seen, I've seen a few over the years, include a provision that states that I can't change it, she can't change it, or revoke it without independently of each other. If I tried to do that, or if she tried to do that, then you're opening yourselves up to some legal battle as to breach of contract. By contrast, if I had my own will, Rhonda had her will, she can change her will, I can change my will all day long. Doesn't matter. That's my will. I can put her in, take her out, whatever I want to do, that's my choice. So married couples who are thinking about creating a joint will, think twice, okay? Because of the inflexibility that you're faced with, because you cannot change the will after somebody has died. So what's a why would anybody want to even have a joint will? Well, you may want to have a joint will because your children would be locked into whatever they're going to be inheritance. Whatever they're going to be receiving is what they're going to receive. So a joint will ensures that both of your desires, you and your spouse's desires and preferences, are being followed permanently. I've talked to a lot of people over the 30 years that I've been practicing, and they feel comfortable knowing that if their spouse was to pass away, they have a place to live and they would inherit the property, and then the kids are going to get whatever they're going to get. So it provides some peace of mind for them going forward. It solidifies the fact that the children are going to inherit everything once both parents pass on. Another potential benefit to a joint will is that if one parent passes away and the other remarries, the original children are guaranteed to receive the inheritance and not the new step-parent and not the new step-kids. But why would you not want to have one? Here's a con. You're the surviving spouse. Well, you're stuck. So life is unpredictable. Sometimes really terrible things happen, or you have other events, amazing events, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, whatever it may be. You can't predict everything, and so in that joint will, you have no flexibility there. You can't take advantage of those amazing events that happen in your life after a spouse dies. Okay, so you're stuck in the sense that you can't make any adjustments to the will, even under those very special circumstances like births. Okay, I have seen though where after a spouse dies that maybe one of the kids becomes more estranged. And so even though they're estranged, they're still going to participate in whatever the inheritance is when the surviving parent dies. So again, you're stuck and you can't make any changes. Again, you're not permitted to make any, maybe not be able to help grandchildren go to college. You may not be able to sell or gift assets away and paying for living expenses, okay? So you can't sell or gift away assets besides money that are listed in the will because you're stuck. You can't add restrictions on money to be inherited. Maybe you have an adult child who has some creditor issues or divorce issues or whatever it may be and not financially responsible. You can't add any restrictions to that. You can't gift ahead of time property to your adult children. Maybe you want to downsize from a 5,000 square foot house to a 1,500 square foot house. Well, you can't do that either because of the fact that you are stuck. So separate wills are always better. And why? Because you're flexible. Wills you can mirror each other. My wife, I can say everything goes to Rhonda, and Rhonda says everything goes to Dale, and then after that it goes to the kids. That's fine. But what happens if I pass away and then everything goes to Rhonda, but then my kids are cut out? You can make those adjustments in your will to protect your children from previous marriages, or you can even protect your wife or husband from a remarriage. Say you get remarried, but you don't want the new spouse to have any access to any of the assets that you are leaving your spouse. Leave it in a trust, a testamentary trust under the will that says she'll get the income, but she can't get principal. So you can always put some restrictions on what you're giving your surviving spouse in order to protect those monies so that they'll eventually go to your children. You can add and subtract beneficiaries anytime, provide for remarriages, whatever it may be, but separate wills, even though they may mirror each other, are always better because of the flexibility. Now, always update your will if you have life events, okay? Deaths, divorces, you have disabilities, you have births, anything like that. You need to take your will out every couple of years and say, hey, is this exactly what I want? Maybe who I've got in charge has some issues and I don't want him in charge anymore, so I want to appoint somebody else. Maybe a child has died, but you want to provide for that child's partner, okay? Because that partner is now part of the family. It's been part of the family for years. Otherwise, that partner wouldn't receive anything. Look at updating your will when you have life-changing events and important events like that. Thank you for tuning in today. I hope you learned a lot about joint wills. Just don't do them, okay? Because they're not flexible. But hey, check out this video I did a couple of weeks ago on probate. Talked about fact and fiction, and specifically how important it is to look at how property is titled. So until next time, you be blessed.